anonymously in a series of interviews, has described being trained in 2005 for a program in which the agency routinely examined large volumes of Americans' email messages without court warrants. This, according to the New York Times investigative piece, co-written by James Risen, who will join us in a second. The former analyst added that his instructors had warned against committing any abuses, telling his class that another analyst had been investigated because he had improperly accessed the personal email of former President Bill Clinton. And while that analyst's training obviously occurred during the Bush administration, two intelligence officials confirmed that the program is, or was at least earlier this year, still in operation. And closed-door hearings by 3 congressional panels are raising new concerns about the entire NSA surveillance program. From the chairman of the House Select Intelligence Oversight Panel, Congressman Rush Holt, quote, "Some actions are so flagrant they can't be accidental." Mr. Holt disputing claims by NSA officials that the overall collection was inadvertent. And according to 3 intelligence officials, despite new procedures requiring the NSA to go to FISA court first and TAP second, the agency has still exceeded the legal boundaries of 8 to 10 separate court orders and thus improperly collected the communications of possibly millions of Americans. Joining us now, as promised, James Risen, who won the Pulitzer Prize for his investigative reporting on the Bush administration's domestic spying program. Thanks once again for your time tonight, sir.
Thanks for having me.
The example of abuse that was cited by that instructor, the one that involved the former president, Mr. Clinton, is there any indication if that was a rare exception or stuff like that happened all the time? Any gauge?
I think it sounded like from the former NSA analyst that we interviewed that it was rare to access the emails of celebrities or famous people, but that it was fairly routine, according to him, for people to access the emails of girlfriends or wives or other people that they might know, and that the caution they were being given by the instructors was, in addition to these examples of famous people like President Clinton, they were also cautioned, don't look at your girlfriend's emails, don't look at your wife's emails. And so it was interesting. It sounded like, from this analyst's perspective, that something like the Clinton email accessing was fairly rare, but that it was more common for analysts to be looking at the emails of people they know.
Boy, the mind reels at either possibility. But to what extent has what has been described as overcollection, do we know how much of that has survived into the Obama administration?
Well, what we do know is that between late 2008 and early 2009, for several months, this fairly large-scale overcollection continued. The Justice Department issued a statement in April saying that they had put a halt to it. But as you mentioned, Congressman Holt, who chairs a new Special Select Intelligence Committee, told us that he is not convinced that the NSA has actually handled this properly or has put an end to it, and he said that he believes that it's non-inadvertent, and that, as he said, this may be a flagrant problem that is continuing. Other people on the Hill seem to disagree with that, but there seems to be both a short-term problem with these incidents and also a larger issue of how much email collection is now legal under the new law.
And to the point of taking it into the secret FISA court, you also wrote that instances of overcollection had been reported to that court, and an administration official said, quote, the court was not happy. Are there consequences to the court not being happy, or does nobody, again, as you just pointed out, know exactly what's legal and what's not, even in FISA court?
That's a big problem, and in fact, as Congressman Holt told us, one of the things that he's afraid of is that so many of the policymakers, including Capitol Hill and the courts, don't really understand the technology that the NSA is using. And that's a real problem. We're not sure what happened with the court. We do know that there was a serious issue that the NSA had to explain to the FISA court fairly recently.
Well, Congressman Holt, as you noted, disputing the notion that it's always accidental, and this might be a parallel example of abuse. It might be related, it might not, but as you know, the former NSA analyst Russell Tice was here a couple of times and told us that he had been directed to monitor these large groups, including one group being journalists, on the premise that they were being culled, they were being taken to the discard pile. In fact, it turned out that the discard pile was also being saved and perhaps analyzed. Do the congressional oversight committees think that they're getting straight answers from the NSA when you could have something as easy as that shell game that Tice described?
Well, I think there's a division within Congress on this. Senator Feinstein said today that she believes that the NSA is following the law. As you pointed out, Congressman Holt disagrees with that. And so I think there's some division in Congress. It's unclear where the oversight is right now and how much of this is a carryover between the Bush years and the Obama years. So I think we'll have to continue to follow that.
Is it clear where the current administration stands on where they want this defined?
Well, I thought there was a very interesting exchange today in Congress between Attorney General Holder and Senator Russ Feingold. Feingold tried to get Attorney General Holder to agree that the Bush warrantless wiretapping program had been illegal, and Attorney General Holder refused now to use that word, illegal, in applying it to the warrantless wiretapping program, and that was very interesting. And as Senator Feingold said, it represented a change from the Obama campaign's position on that.
It certainly did. James Risen, the Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter of the New York Times. It's always an education, albeit a scary one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Remember, when Republicans